Alright, so in this video we're talking about Chapter 10 of the ACE Personal Trainer Manual, which is resistance training. If this is your first study tip video of mine that you've watched, I would recommend going back and watching this one that I will link above first, because I talk about how to study for the entire exam, and then come back to this one because this is just Chapter 10 specific. So we're going to go over some quick fire points here real fast, and then we'll get into how this all applies to the ACE IFT model. So first is factors that influence strength and hypertrophy. Know that little section? That's like sex, age, hormones, those type of things. Then make sure you know that little table where it has like the sets, reps, rest intervals, those type of things for the specific training goal that they're going for, because that's going to be different depending on what they're trying to accomplish. Delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS. Know what it is and how to prevent it with your clients. Double progressive training protocol. Know what this is. I'll give you the basics real fast. It's basically like when you're working with a client and they are progressing through resistance training, you are going to increase the number of reps and then increase the weight by approximately 5%. Periodization, linear and undulating. Know what they are, know what the differences are between them, and when it would be appropriate to use them. If you have more questions about periodization, let me know. I could do an entire video on just periodization. Okay, so those are some real quick points, and now let's get into how this all applies to the ACE IFT model. So phase 1 is stability and mobility, and it's basically that. There is no weight, absolutely no added weight other than body weight. You're just making sure that they can move without compromising stability, and vice versa. Phase 2, movement training. This is, the 5 movement patterns that they talk about, which is, bend and lift, push, pull, rotational movements, and single leg movement. If they can do all of those without compensation, with correct form, then you can add weight, but make sure you're only adding a little bit of weight because they still have to be able to perform the movements correctly underweight, and sometimes that throws people off. Make sure you know the first acronym, which stands for frequency, intensity, repetitions, sets, and type. So those are going to be very important for all of these phases. So make sure you understand how those are different for each phase. Phase 3 is load training. So the big thing to focus on here is muscular endurance, muscular strength, and muscular hypertrophy. How does the first acronym apply to those 3? How is it different? Because you're going to be training different reps, different sets, different weights, depending on what your fitness goals are or what your client's goals are. Phase 4, performance training. So this is where you're getting into more technical, more athletic, more skill-specific things. So focus on stretch reflex, stretch and shortening cycle, the amortization phase, things like that. Make sure you don't have to know like super in detail, but know what they are so that if they mention it in question, you have a reference point and you know what they're talking about. Plyometrics, understand what they are, understand progressions, understand low intensity versus higher intensity plyometrics. So you'll probably have questions, something to the effect of, which one is a lower intensity? Like, for example, jump in place versus a depth jump. Jumping in place is going to be a much lower intensity plyometric than a depth jump. So make sure you understand kind of that hierarchy. They have like a whole chart in there about that, so understand that. Alright guys, we are in the home stretch, the final points here. I know I'm going through these real fast, so if you need to, pause this video, grab yourself a little snack, and then we'll get going here. Seriously, I'll wait. And we're back. Small group training. Nothing too crazy or complex about this, just understand how that dynamic changes when you're working with multiple people as opposed to one client. Youth and older adults, kind of the same thing. You are going to train youth and adults differently than you would your traditional clients, so just understand kind of the main points there with that. Strength training equipment options. I don't remember a ton of questions about this on the exam. I would say just skim this and kind of understand generally what the different types of equipment are that are out there. Chances are, if you're studying to be a personal trainer, you already know what those things are. So, ergonomic aids and supplements. You may not have a lot of questions on the exam about this, but I would say definitely know this, because when you're working with the clients, you will be asked about this. I have clients who don't even have sports or athletic goals, and they still ask me about supplements. So especially if you're working with men will typically ask about it more than women from my experience. Resistance training myths and mistakes. Definitely know this one. There will probably be a couple questions on the exam about it, but more importantly, you have to know this just for your own credibility, because if a client catches, if you tell a client something or they ask you about something, you give them the wrong answer, and then they later find out, that just completely kills your credibility. And if you're around other fitness professionals, it's going to make you look really dumb. So make sure you understand this, really just kind of for your own protection, so you're not giving false information out there, even if it's well intended, or make sure you understand what those myths are, because it's just it's super important. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and leave me a like. It helps me grow my channel. And leave me a comment down below if you have any questions. Also consider subscribing, because I do other videos on here about how to study for the exam, as well as basic movement patterns, basic exercises such as how to squat, how to do push-up, things like that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.